welcome to the Author's Lounge. My name is Cheryl Mays and I am your host. And I'm so excited to bring to you today Miss Dorez Douglas. Generally, we have authors that are going to share their inspiration behind the story and the messaging, but today we have a special guest. Dorez Douglas is our subject matter expert on how to know if your book is a good movie, and then how to actually use your social media to get publicity. Dorez has worked over the years in the fields of public relations, theater, film, and television. And so we are really excited to be able to hear the golden nuggets that she's going to share with us on how to make sure that you have everything you need if you want to take your book to that next level. So stay with us after this commercial.
Dreamspire Books Virtual Launch Box. Everything you need for a successful virtual book launch in one place. Timelines, press release templates, social media advertising info, graphic design, an interview on our streaming network, and a personal coaching session. Don't forget your thank yous and so much more. Visit us at www.dreamspirebooks.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Author's Lounge. I am so excited because we are here today with Dorez Douglas. And Dorez Douglas, not only has she worked in public relations, theater, and film, but she has worked with some of the renowned actors and actresses. She has worked with Robert Townsend, Blair Underwood, Kim Whitley, Destiny's Child, Lavelle Crawford, Meshach Taylor, Paul Winfield, Diahann Caroll. The list goes on. So we are definitely excited to be able to hear how she's going to help us. And she has also written books on actually how to get your book to film. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Miss Dorez Douglas. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing well,
Thank
and I am so excited. Well, thank you. I am so excited to have you on the show, just from your history and this plethora of experience that you've had in production and film and helping authors with screenplays and getting it to the movie screen. So tell us about how did you start?
Oh boy, that's that's over 30 years ago, but I'm going to condense it for you.
Okay, thank you.
I left Detroit in 1980, and I decided I wanted to work in the entertainment business. At the time, I didn't know anything about the entertainment business or how to get a job or whatever, but I figured I had secretarial skills. And so I said, well, I'll start there. So I told a bunch of friends of mine that I was going to be moving to California. I made the move. It was a big undertaking. Anybody that wants to write me on Facebook to hear that story is more than welcome. Just look up Dorez Douglas and friend me, and I'll be happy to share that with you. But anyway, long story short was I got my first job working on the front desk as a receptionist at a game show called The Love Connection. And so from there, once I was actually in the industry, I got a chance to see how it works. And I became friends with the producer of the show, and his name was Eric Lieber. And he taught me what a producer does. And when I heard that, I thought, that sounds like something I could do. I'm really good at coordinating things, pulling people together, getting a team and making something happen. So that was all I knew about it. From there, I found an opportunity at a cable company. And I don't know if they still do this, but at that time they had an access channel. And anybody could have a show on that channel as long as you took their producer's orientation class. So I took that. And once I learned what I had to do, I created a show called Eye on Entertainment. And it was something like Entertainment Tonight. And so it had to sort of have that same format. And so I ended up producing that show with a friend. And the friend worked at Disney. And she had connections to people in the industry. So through her, I got an opportunity to produce a children's special for ABC, which was called Jerem Pimbira. And it's an animated African folktale. And so once I did that, I really knew how to produce. when you're dealing in the big leagues with the network. It's like being thrown in the deep end of the pool. But anyway, I managed to swim and keep myself afloat enough with her help. And that was my start in producing.
That's amazing. You know, you have had such a wide history, and it literally, listening to you helps me to understand, and this is what I talk to people about, how important relationships are.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Without that, I would be nowhere in this industry, because when I first moved here, as I said, I didn't have any connections or know anybody. So I found an organization called Black Women's Network. And through them is how I met the lady who told me about the job at the Love Connection. So one thing leads to another thing. Even my producing partner that I work with now, Willie Burton, I met him through a lady that was a member of Black Women's Network. So over all these years, a lot of the connections I made were through that one organization. And it's amazing how you can meet one person. And if you build a real relationship, I find the problem right now with the internet is that people forget about having real live friendships and relationships. And they don't realize that the first thing you should really do anytime you're trying to make it in any industry, it doesn't even matter which industry, you should always start by joining a group or an organization that's in your city. And I know right now, you know, because of COVID, we can't meet in person like I could do then. But a lot of people have taken their meetings online, you know, and they're meeting on Zoom and they're FaceTiming and they're doing whatever it takes to, you know, to keep the organization active and alive and keep the relationships there, you know, working. And so I tell people you can still do it nowadays. You just have to do it differently. But the important thing is that you don't let it just fly by. Like before you know it, 5 months have gone by and you haven't even written the person and said hello, you know, or asked how they're doing. And so that's one of the key things I talk about in my book. I have a book called Careers in Film, and it teaches people how to get into the entertainment industry. And that's one of the areas that's most important. If you don't make connections in this business, you aren't going to have a very sustainable career.
And, you know, that is so important. And so as a subject matter expert, which is, I thank you so much for saying, hey, I definitely want to come and help people understand the road on getting your book to the film, getting your book to screenplay. And so kind of walk us through, what does that look like?
Well, the first thing, and I think a lot of authors don't know this, so they don't know to do it. The very first thing you should ever do when you're thinking about writing a book is deciding right then, before you even start, whether or not you want that book made into a film. Because if you do, you're going to have to write a different type of story. And by that, I mean, I get a lot of authors who want me to turn their book into a film, or they want to hire me as a consultant to help them learn the process and walk them through it. But what they don't realize is the book they've already written, it's not a book that's going to make a good film. And so I'll tell you what the problems are. One of the challenges is that a lot of people who've had, let's say maybe you're in your late 20s or early 30s, you haven't really lived a long time. So a lot of, you know, it's almost impossible to tell your story. Now you can tell a specific event, you know, that happened to you that shaped your life. Like somebody, for example, who was affected by 9/11. You know, maybe they were actually in the building and managed to get out, you know. So now we've got just that one story, you know, that one aspect of their life that is a life-changing experience. That makes an excellent movie if you tell it right, you know. And so I'll get into that more in a minute. But the key thing is figuring out if you really want to share your real life story, or if what you're telling, what your book is going to be about is more of a self-help book. And there are a lot of people who combine the two. They'll take a little bit of their life and then they will do a book about how to help yourself, you know, through a rape or incest or, you know, an attack or whatever the, you know, situation is, or even if you're just suffering from depression or whatever. So they'll take the book and they make it into more of a teaching tool. Well, the problem is that doesn't make a good movie. And so, so it's tricky, because how am I going to translate that into a dramatic story that's going to hold the interest of an audience, for an hour, hour and a half, however long your movie is. And so I suggest that if you're going to tell your story, just tell your story. Don't make the book a self-help book, and, don't write a whole bunch of, chapters on how to go through a process and deal with whatever happened to you. You just want to tell the story. Tell what happened to you, how it affected you, your family, your friends, your job, whatever it was. And be honest as you can be, because that's another aspect of telling your story that's kind of tricky. And the reason I say that, let's say, for example, if you were telling a story about incest, your story is not just going to affect you. It's going to affect your entire family as well as the family of the person who perpetrated this crime, So people who've done things like that, or who have a situation where they went to prison, and they want to tell their story, what they have to realize is that once that story is out there to the public, all kinds of people are going to see it. And your life is just going to become an open book, So all of a sudden, you may get attention that you didn't want. Or you may be thrown into a controversy that you didn't want, or you may be sued, or, whatever. So I always tell people, think about that carefully. Now, if you're writing fiction, the difference is that it's all a made up story, and it could be loosely based on your own life, but you fictionalized it. So you could do that, and you actually have a better chance of getting the book published, maybe, because it's fiction. And they don't have to worry about, lawsuits or anybody saying what you said isn't true, that kind of thing. But most executives, especially at the networks and the studios and these streaming companies that are out there now, they prefer true stories or something based on true events. So it's sort of a, catch-22. It's sort of a good thing to tell your story, but you just have to be prepared for the fallout that may happen, as a result of that. Now, the way it works in terms of getting it from an actual book to a movie is a lot more difficult. And the reason I say that is because there's a couple of steps you have to go through. One is that you have to find producers or a production company that's willing to take on the project. And so you're going to have to send your book to these people. That's the first thing. I want to bring this up because of something that happened to me last week. I put the word out about authors who want to turn their book into films, and I got flooded with people sending me links to their books. And they were all telling me, you got to buy my book because it's the greatest, it's the best, it's an amazing story. But what they didn't understand is I'd be broke if I bought every book that's submitted to me. And that's why producers and production companies don't buy your book. If you're serious and you want them to consider your book for a project, you're going to have to be able to be willing to send it to them for free. So that's the first thing you need to know. Now, this is what happens if you do that. And let's say you get lucky and they like the books, or one of the producers or production company says, yes, I really love this story. I think it'll make a great movie. They're going to then option that book from you. And the reason they have to do that is because in order to submit your story to other people, they have to have permission. So the option is your permission for them to shop your story around and see if they can get a deal. But before they do that, they're going to want that book turned into a screenplay. Now, most authors don't know how to write a screenplay. It's very different from writing a book. It's a whole different process, a different structure, and everything. So you have two options in terms of two ways you can go in terms of doing that. You either have to take a class so that you can learn how to write your own screenplay, or you need to get somebody, hire a writer who can write it for you. Now, what some people do is they save up, until they have enough money to hire a writer. Classes aren't cheap, so either way you go, you're going to have to put some money out, but not near as much to take a class as it is to hire a writer. So through the Writers Guild of America, you can find writers. And they're going to be expensive. I would say anywhere from $5,000 and up for a writer. Generally, the average is probably way higher than that, like $15,000. But right now, because of COVID, a lot of writers are desperate for work, so you might get lucky and find one that'll, do it for $5,000. So that's the thing that usually blocks people from going from book to screenplay. That's usually the step that messes you up, because unless you're a, Academy Award winning writer, or you are an author who's been on the, LA Times or New York Times bestseller list, it's very unlikely that a network or a studio is going to just look at your book or read your book and make you a deal. The deal is not going to happen unless you have a screenplay. So that's the first thing. And then the option deal, usually if you know the producer really well and you trust them, you should give them an option for a very small amount of money, because if they're willing to get your book written into a screenplay, especially. There are some that'll do it. There aren't that many that are going to pay a writer. But if you get lucky enough and somebody is going to do that for you, I would suggest you give them an option for like $100. It's just more of a handshake deal, saying, I'm going to let you take my project and I'll give you a year, 1 year option to see what you can do with it. So that's how that part works. If let's say they don't do anything in that 1 year, nothing happens, you don't get a deal, the rights go back to you as the author, and then you can option it again. You can send it out to other producers and production companies and see if you can get a deal. So you can do that as many times as you want. And there are authors who have made money like that, who just keep getting paid for options. Sometimes you will get thousands of dollars for an option, depending on which production company or producer it is. And you can then maybe take that money and see if you could hire a writer.
Gotcha. This is so interesting, and thank you for breaking it down, because I think when people are thinking about taking their book to film, they're thinking about taking the actual book as it is and going directly to film. So thank you for explaining it and breaking that down. And we're going to go to a commercial break, but we're going to come right back, because we're still going to have a conversation with Miss Dorez Douglas. So stay tuned.
Dreamspire Books Virtual Launch Box. Everything you need for a successful virtual book launch in one place. Timelines, press release templates, social media advertising info, graphic design, an interview on our streaming network, and a personal coaching session. Don't forget your thank yous and so much more. Visit us at www.dreamspirebooks.com for more information.
Welcome back. We are here with Ms. Dorez Douglas, and we were talking about the road of taking your work, your literary piece of work, from book to film, and all the intricate pieces that has to happen in order to make that even a possibility. And so you also have an opportunity where you share with individuals that you help on how to use their social media to actually help them get more publicity. So can you elaborate a little bit more about what that looks like and the benefits of that for an author?
Yes, publicity is key to anything nowadays in any field, but especially in the entertainment business. If you want to get the attention of producers and production companies, here's another way to go about it, rather than trying to deal with, contacting them individually on your own. If you work hard on building your social media following, especially like a fan club, for your books, what you need to do then is start to put together and coordinate all of your social media so that it's geared to one thing. So let's say you have a book and you have a individual social media page. Most people have a personal page, but that should not be the page that you're promoting your book on. You should have a separate page that's just for your book, and the same thing, or just as an author. Let's say you've got 3 or 4 books. So you don't have to have one just for, like for each individual book. but just have an author's social media page. So you'll have your YouTube channel, you need Instagram, Twitter, all the resources that you can find. You need to be on everything on social media. You need to be going live on Facebook. You need to have your YouTube channel where you're reading excerpts from your book and that kind of thing, so that you can interact with your fans. And as people start to see, as the media is always scrolling through, looking at all the social media, trying to find the next big thing out there, the next big author or the next big person that's going to break through. So if you're out there building your following, they're going to find you sooner or later. And a lot of times that's how you end up getting publicity. Now, another way is to go to helpareporterout.com. And we call it HARO, which is HARO, but it's helpareporter.com. And what you do is you go there and you can sign up as a source. And what they'll do is, once you sign up as a source, you'll find that they'll start sending you emails of any journalists and reporters who are looking for stories. They're working on stories, or they have a story they're going to put together, or whatever it is, an article, something for their blog. So you have all these journalists and authors, and journalists and bloggers and reporters who are signed up with HARO. And so when you sign up as a source and you get the email saying that they're looking for someone who's written a book about such and such, or they're looking for an expert, on a certain topic, you want to have already established yourself as an expert in your field or in whatever, your book is about. And then what you can do is you can submit yourself to them for their story, and that's free publicity. You don't have to pay anything. It doesn't cost anything to register with HARO. And once you get registered, you have to give them a lot of information, but that's the case with anything that you do nowadays. So you sign up, and then once you get chosen to be featured in a story, now you've got free publicity that you can add to your media kit. So what I suggest is that you take, over time, if you keep doing this, you'll build a media kit of articles that have been written about you. You should also submit yourself and your book to be reviewed. You should start building relationships with publishers and other authors who are maybe in your field or in a related field. And don't look at other authors as the enemy. Look at them as allies, that together you guys can help each other build your reputation and build your reputation as an expert, but also build friendships and relationships so that when you're doing things online, you'll have their support. So that's another avenue, but it's real important to get publicity. So look for it every opportunity, just constantly search the internet for any opportunity. And in terms of your social media, also in terms of your book, you want to make sure that you're interacting with the people who comment on your page. And a lot of people, the mistake they make is they'll post something and then they never go back to check, to see if there are comments or questions or whatever, So you want to keep your page active. You want to engage with your audience, and especially on YouTube. I can tell you, there are people who say, oh, YouTube is no longer a big deal and all that. Don't believe them. There are still producers of all the major talk shows, of all the morning news programs, who are looking for topics, because you got 24 hours worth of programming that these people have to fill. And believe me, they're looking all the time trying to see, and so I've helped a lot of my clients get publicity that way through HARO, and also through helping them build their social media so that they can then get enough publicity generated and a big enough following so that they get media attention.
I think that is so important. And we've had some great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all of these nuggets. And I think that's something that is so important, because oftentimes we're racing, right? We're racing, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. And you hit me. I had to say, ouch, when you said, sometimes you'll put up a post and you won't go back to see if there's been a comment or a reaction to that post. And so that is so very important. So thank you for bringing that up, because I had to check myself there.
You have to stay online. What I've learned to do is I have to post and then kind of hang around a while, maybe 20 minutes at least, to see if someone writes. Because one thing that excites your fan base or your followers is when they feel like it's a live connection, like right away. Oh, I wrote a comment and she responded in like 5 minutes. Now you've hooked them. And so they're going to keep commenting and they're going to keep, contacting you. And then they'll start to tell other people about you. And that's how things go viral, that somebody can say, oh, I read so-and-so's book. And, Cheryl really, her book is amazing. And you will be surprised how powerful word of mouth still is, even online. I still call it word of mouth. People are online, or you can call it word of hand. They're on there typing, saying, oh, you got to see that book. You got to read that book because that book, it blew me away, or I learned so much, or her story is amazing. And when you hear somebody else saying it, it has more of an impact than you tooting your own horn, So I tell people that's one thing. And then the other thing, another tip is do that for other authors. Be as supportive of them as you would like them to be of you. You don't always have to wait until they do it. If you start showing other authors that you're supporting their work, you're helping to spread the word, you're sharing their posts, you're commenting, you're liking their pictures, that means a lot. And believe me, you'll get some loyal, fans just from that, because you're not competing against each other. There's plenty enough people in the world, there's millions of people. So, who are going to want to buy a book. And so you don't have to look at it as, oh, that's the enemy, or I have to, I'm not going to support her because I don't want her book sales to soar and then I'm not doing great, but it never works that way. I've always found the more I give, the more I get back.
Absolutely. Well, Ms. Douglas, thank you so much for coming on the Authors Lounge and sharing this wisdom, because that's what it is. And listen, guys, if you have done nothing, take away, listen to this again, because I'm going to listen to it again, because I've written down some things that I want to make sure that I do on my journey. And so thank you. Now, you have something that is in the works, and it is with Willie Burton, who is your present partner, that you've actually worked with Voices from the Bayou, and then Cabin 4. So you've got some stuff coming up.
Yes. Cabin 4 is going to be a supernatural film, and it'll be the first I've ever done a feature film. Voices from the Bayou, we just finished shooting it in Baton Rouge, and I'm not sure when we'll have it out where, available for the public to see it, because right now we're in the post-production phase, so we're editing the film. But as soon as we finish, that will be out. But Cabin 4, we're going to be shopping that project pretty soon. And Voices from the Bayou, by the way, just so your authors know, that is from a book. And so that's an example of how you can turn a film into a book. We took some stories from the book, because it's a bunch of different stories. So we picked a couple of the best ones and we put them in the film. And that's what the film is about. And Lamont Rucker stars in that project.
Amazing. So how can people stay in touch with you? Because I know after all of this information, they're going to want more. And so how can a person connect with you?
I forgot to, I think you have it. If you could post that or share it, my website link, I'll send it to you if you don't have it already. But they can find me on Facebook or Instagram or any of those under my name, Dorez Douglas. You can Google it, or you can go on Facebook and find me and friend me. And I also have a business page on Facebook under the same name. I also have Careers in Film on a Facebook page for that as well. And on Instagram, Dorez Douglas. So if they write me, they can, contact me by Messenger or DM me, and then I'll send them the link to my website.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. You have heard it from the expert herself on how to get your book to film and on how to actually master the publicity aspect using social media to your advantage. So, Ms. Dorez Douglas, thank you so much for joining us on the Authors Lounge.
And thank you for having me. I loved it and can't wait to hear from your authors.
Absolutely. You have an amazing day.
All righty. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, there you have it, guys. This has been the Authors Lounge. My name is Cheryl Mays. And I am so excited to have had that opportunity to bring to you a subject matter expert that had shared some nuggets that I know you are going to take to heart, and you're going to get started, or you're going to revamp your marketing plan. So this is what happens on the Authors Lounge. So join us on the Authors Lounge. Go to dreamspirebooks.com. You get to see our online bookstore. You also get to see some of the other opportunities that we have for authors. We have virtual book launch. We have authors features. We have opportunities to have your book highlighted. So you have an opportunity for that. And then definitely follow us on Instagram at Dreamspire Books. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dreamspire TV. And definitely join our Facebook group as well as our fan page at Dreamspire Books. So we hope to stay connected with you. Stay connected with us. And until the next time, have an amazing day. Keep writing and keep reading.